So we have been studying about the Antichrist. We are trying to lay the ground before we can dive into the last week of human history, also known as the 70th week of Daniel. We say that that period is also known as the time of Jacob's trouble. And we explained it. We said that Jacob worked for his bride and he was swindled and given a wrong one. But then he was told to fulfill the week of the one whom he wanted, which was 7 years of service to his father-in-law. So we said that Jeremiah, he quotes that and says, it's going to be a time of Jacob's trouble where everyone, including the men, we are holding their loins and their faces were pale. We saw that in Jeremiah chapter 30, verse number 5. And they said they were in travail. Jeremiah saw into the future and he saw that last week that Daniel spoke about, that Israel is destined to go through. So we said that Daniel spoke about the 70 weeks that had been determined for the nation of Israel. And we said that those 70 weeks, it was a prophecy given to him by angel Gabriel, which outlines the future of Israel from the moment they were in captivity to the moment when they're going to receive the Son of God, who is Jesus Christ. We said that that prophecy is in Daniel chapter 9, verse number 24 to verse number 27. And we said, in verse 27, he gives the headline, and he says that 70 weeks have been determined upon your people and upon Israel, your nation. So he says, that's those 70 weeks. We said we have to getting the mathematical equation from the period that Jacob served for his bride. We have to get the 70 weeks, multiply it by 7 years, which means it is a period of 490 years that God has determined for the nation of Israel. We read through the next verse 25, and we said he split it into two. He said there's going to be the first 7 weeks, and from the time Daniel is receiving this prophecy, you're going to count 7 weeks, which means 49 years. And then King Artaxerxes of Persia is going to give a go-ahead for Nehemiah, his servant, to go and restore Jerusalem. For those of you who have read the book of Nehemiah, you know how the story went. How they were building the walls, holding the tool in one arm and the weapon in the other. He said that the walls are going to be rebuilt, but in troublous times. So that is what he's giving to Daniel. He says it's going to be 7 weeks, and then Nehemiah is going to go and rebuild the wall. Then in verse 26, we said he's giving him 9 signs for Israel. He says after 62 weeks, beyond the 7th week of the decree to restore Jerusalem, he says the Messiah is going to be cut off, which means Jesus will have come. And that means it's going to be 7 weeks plus 62 weeks, making it a total of 483 years. So after 483 years, Jesus would have come and he's going to be killed. But the angel doesn't tell Daniel the reason why he's going to be killed. But you and I, of course, with 2020 hindsight, we are able to know why Jesus died. So he died, and then he says the Messiah is going to be cut off. The people of the prince that shall come, we said now the Antichrist has got 33 titles, descriptions in the Old Testament. One of them is the prince that shall come. So in this verse, he says the people of the prince that shall come, who is the Antichrist, they shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. Which means the prince that shall come, who is the Antichrist, is going to come from the region that was occupied as at that moment by the great Roman Empire. So the Antichrist is not going to come from anywhere else around the world, but it's going to come from the region that we have as the Middle East. Okay? So he says, they shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. So this prophecy, it was fulfilled after 483 years that God had given to Daniel. And this was the Roman Empire. When we say that Vespasian and his son Titus, this was a general of the Roman Empire. He came destroying city after city and entered into Jerusalem, and they besieged Jerusalem. In 70 AD, that's when it got destroyed. But I said that at that moment, Vespasian had gone back to Rome because the emperor had died. But it was Titus, his son, who fulfilled this prophecy. He destroyed Jerusalem. They destroyed the temple. And that was the scattering. That's when it happened. Everyone in Israel was scattered. That's what we call the diaspora, the spreading of the Jewish people across the whole world. And we say that that was a judgment that Jesus Christ proclaimed upon Israel, because he said that Jerusalem, because you did not know the time of your visitation, your house shall be left to you desolate. Amos had said that Israel, behold, your king cometh riding on a donkey. Jesus, he made it a point. At one point, he rode a donkey and entered into Jerusalem, but he was not discerned by the Jewish people that he was the Messiah. And because of that, he proclaimed a judicial blindness upon the nation of Israel and said that Jerusalem is going to be destroyed and the temple as well. He said, no stone shall be left on top of the other, because you did not know the time of your visitation. So it was Jesus who proclaimed that judgment upon the nation of Israel, which we call now the blindness of Israel. And that blindness is going to be lifted, but in the future. As of right now, when you tell the Jews about Jesus, they don't know who he is. They don't know who he is. It was a judgment spoken to them, a judgment of blindness. But that blindness is destined to be lifted. And it is going to be lifted at the moment when the church is going to be taken away. Now, we have that scripture in the book of Romans chapter 11, verse 25. He says, Israel is blind in part until the fullness of the Gentiles. So they are blind not to know Jesus, for us to receive grace to be engrafted to the blessing of Abraham. So you and I right now, we're beneficiaries of the blindness of Israel. But that shouldn't make us proud, because that blindness, it is a grace God has given to us to receive. But that blindness is going to be lifted. We have now the churches who espouse the doctrine we call replacement theology, saying that the church has replaced Israel. But when you say that statement, you are calling God a liar. You are calling God a liar, because God, he hinged that promise to Jerusalem. He said, if I forget Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its cunning. He said, if I remember not Jerusalem, may my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. So God has made it that Israel, it can never be forgotten from him. In the book of Jeremiah, it says, I will forget Israel, I will forget Jerusalem, if you can go to heaven and using a measure out the entire heavens. And then after doing that, you go and you break God's covenant of the sun and the moon. He says, if the sun is unable to rise from the east and set in the west, if you can do that, if you can pull the sun to go backwards, he said, then will I forget Jacob and Israel. So for those of you who take the Bible serious, you can see the gravity of God's commitment to the nation of Israel and Abraham. So Israel has not been replaced by the church. We are distinct from Israel. We are a special group on the side. I told you before how that God sees us in three classifications: Israel, the church, and the Gentiles. There are three, and we all have different destinies. Back to Daniel. So we speak about the 70 weeks of Daniel. So in verse number 24, he speaks about the headline of what God is intended to do. Then in verse 25, he speaks about the divisions, the 7 weeks followed by the next, which is going to total up to 483 years. Then the last week, the 70th week, is the one that has not yet happened. And we say that the 70th week is the one that is going to be the reign of the Antichrist. So I wanted us to get this historical context so that we can understand, because I told you the Bible is a living, dynamic book. It walks through history. And according to Proverbs, you say that it is the glory of God to hide a thing, but the honor of kings to search it out. When you find that the world is saying that God is irrelevant, God is, we have now evolution and atheism is indoctrinated amongst the academia world. It is our fault as God's children for not studying and finding out how God has been walking throughout history. But history attests to what the Bible says. And that's what we are trying to get. So the 70th week is a period that is going to be enforced by the Antichrist. A time of Jacob's trouble. So let's read verse number 27, what it says. Now, from 26, he speaks about the prince that shall come. Of course, he hadn't come as of then, that they're going to destroy the city and the temple. verse 27, it says, now he says, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. This statement is where most of people who are in Christ have had their scares and their doubts. They say, because the verse says, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. This is the verse where they always hinge on when they see the covenants happening in the land of Israel. In the year 2020, we saw President Donald Trump, he went and he signed peace treaties between Israel and their neighbors. We had Jordan, we had Saudi Arabia, we had the neighboring countries around Israel, in the Middle East especially. They were signing what we know as the Abraham Accords. And there are people who are scared. They say the person who's supposed to sign the peace treaty with Israel is going to be the Antichrist. They were citing it from this verse. So wherever there's a covenant of peace between Israel and anyone else, it is a moment of scare for people who have read at least the Bible. Because they know the person who's going to do it is going to be the Antichrist. Because it is such a challenge that no one has a solution for the problems in the Middle East. So when they saw Trump signing this covenant, they said maybe Trump is the Antichrist. And because it was his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who went and negotiated these treaties, they said maybe he's the one who is the Antichrist because he's a mixed blood, he's half Jewish. They said maybe he is the Antichrist. But it is not true. It is not true. So this is the verse where they get, he said, he shall sign the covenant with many for 1 week. Because when the Antichrist comes, he's going to be the only person who's going to have a feasible solution for the problem of Israel with Palestine. Can you imagine a person who will bring a solution for Israel and Palestine to coexist? Today there's war in Gaza. Israel is refusing to capitulate. And Palestine is refusing, Hamas is refusing to give in. They signed the peace treaty of recent, and the people in Palestine, they broke it, the ceasefire. So even when Trump is trying, even when Jared Kushner is trying, peace is nowhere to be seen in that land. But the Antichrist, when he comes, he's going to have a solution for both camps, and the world is going to be satisfied. And that covenant, so many nations are going to put their signature. They will append their signature. When we have votes in the UN concerning Israel and Palestine, we have got nations that refuse to vote. But in this one, many nations are going to put their hands on this covenant. Because it won't come from a normal human being. It's going to come from the son of Lucifer, known as the Antichrist. He says, he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, for 7 years. There's a reason why it is 7 years. In that 7 years, it is going to be peace. There will be no war from Israel. There will be no war from Palestine. And he says, and in the midst of the week, okay? In the midst of the week, we said this week is 7 years, which means after 3.5 years, he, this Antichrist, he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. 1G. So halfway in this peace treaty, he is going to cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease, which means Israel is going to have a temple. Today, Israel has no temple. But you have been following the news, the Temple Mount Institute. They have been preparing every element right now that is required. Even the priests that are going to be serving in the next temple, they are all ready. Every element is all prepared right now. But they don't have a go-ahead as of yet to construct the temple. Now, when that temple is constructed, that's when the Antichrist is going to do what? He's going to break his covenant. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So what is he saying? We see that in the New Testament when Paul is writing to the Thessalonians in chapter number 2, there's something that the Antichrist is going to do. In fact, we should read from the words of Jesus before we go to Paul. Now, what the Antichrist has done is after 3.5 years, he's going to cause the sacrifice to stop and oblations to cease, which means he's going to commit an abomination in the temple. And what abomination is that? Jesus speaks about it in the book of Matthew chapter number 24. Because when the Antichrist comes, he's going to come as a man of peace. The Bible says that through peace he shall destroy many. Through peace he shall destroy many. In fact, let's first read it. Daniel chapter 8. Through peace he's going to destroy many. So people are going to see him as a person of peace. They're going to believe him because he's going to be such a powerful orator. He's going to be so convincing that he's going to convince everyone on earth. Jesus said it's going to be so bad that if it were possible, even the very elect were going to be deceived. Verse number 25. Let's read chapter number. We have chapter number 7 and verse chapter number 8. Let's read chapter number 8. In chapter 8, let's read from verse number 23. It says, "And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a fierce king, a king of fierce countenance." He is the Antichrist. This is one of the titles. He's a king of fierce countenance. "And understanding dark sentences shall stand up." Because we said his origin is supernatural. He's the son of Lucifer. So he's going to be so wise. He's going to have a fierce countenance. In the book of Revelation, people are going to say who's able to make war against the beast. Because the beast is the Antichrist. Because he's going to have a fierce countenance. Everyone is going to be afraid of him. He'll be so powerful. He's going to be so wise. Because we know Lucifer, he is a cherub in heaven. And the cherub, they are the custodians of wisdom. So his son is going to be so, his wisdom is going to be beyond this world. Everyone is going to gravitate toward him. He's going to be so magnetic that even if it were possible, the very elect would be deceived. In fact, do you know one of the reasons why God is going to rapture the church before the coming of the Antichrist? He gives it in the book of Psalms 83 that those who have been hidden away, Jesus is going to take us to hide us away. He's going to hide us in heaven so that we may not see what the Antichrist is going to do here on earth. We read in Psalms 83, we read in Revelation chapter number 13, verse number 7, the church is going to be taken to be hidden away. Because the Antichrist is going to be, we have Christians who don't have enough grasp of the Bible. Therefore, they are going to be susceptible to the deception of the Antichrist. So the only way is for God to save you from that moment. Because we have people who have denied God for so long. The Bible said that it's going to be judgment. God is going to send them great delusion when the Antichrist comes. So he's going to be a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences. He's going to reveal mysteries in every field. Because the economy, the global economy is going to collapse again. We had a collapse in 2008 where the American banks collapsed and the whole world was affected. We have a collapse of recent during the COVID-19 where the global economy fell, and to recover from that has taken us years. Is going to be another collapse, which is going to be extra massive, and no one is going to have a solution. All the CPS around the world, all the SCCS around the world, none is going to have a solution. But in that moment, that virtue of desperation, that's when the Antichrist is going to rise. And he's going to, let's continue, I have to say, read before I tell you. Understanding of dark sentences shall stand up, and his power shall be mighty. His power shall be mighty. Wow. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. Not by his own. What do you mean not by his own power? His power is going to be extra. In Revelation chapter number 13, he said the dragon gave him power. The dragon gave him power because Lucifer is the father. He's going to give his power to his son, who is the Antichrist. So he said that Antichrist is going to be powerful, is going to be wise, but not in his own acumen, intellectual acumen. But he's going to receive this inheritance that is divine from his father Lucifer. Understanding of dark sentences. His knowledge is going to be supreme. He's going to be supreme. Wow. And he shall destroy many. Verse 24. And he shall destroy wonderfully. Because again, we see that the Antichrist is going to have miracle working powers. He's going to have miracle working powers. He's going to do miracles. And he's going to destroy in a way that is very awful. And shall prosper. So when he puts his focus on something, he's going to excel in an instant. Because he won't be alone. I want to reveal something, another mystery to you about him. Why you don't want to be here when the Antichrist rises. You don't want to be here. And shall prosper and practice and shall destroy the mighty and the holy. So you see, the global economy is going to be lifted again through his one man's thinking. Through his one man's thinking. And he's going to introduce a new world currency. The whole world is going to have one currency. We speak about the new world order. The new world order is real. It is going to happen. We had people, the proponents of the new world order, they're known as the World Economic Forum, who had the agenda of the Great Reset. During lockdown, they wanted to impose that, where we have one world government led by technocrats and celebrities. We had billionaires who were enforcing the lockdowns and quarantine and curfew, all that. That was a test run that we had in 2020. That was a test run. And they really wanted to do it. But they were resisted for some reason. It is going to happen in the future. But for you to have total control over the whole world, you need the total control of the economy, total control of religion. All of those combined together. And total control of the political realm. So all power of politics, power of religion, power of economy is going to be concentrated in one man, the Antichrist. He will have dominion over everything. Imagine a politician with miracle working abilities. And he's such a financial genius. He has lifted every third world country to become first world in a matter of weeks. A matter of weeks. Such is going to be the challenge that people are going to stand against. He shall prosper, practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. Now, what do you mean he's going to destroy the holy people? There's something I wouldn't want to say, but it is true. When Adolf Hitler was here on earth, he believed himself to be the Antichrist. In fact, his aspirations were to be the Antichrist. We say that in the Bible, throughout history, you have seen there are 7 shadows through history that were symbols of the Antichrist. People who were such wicked on a level that was beyond normal. So Adolf Hitler was the 7th. The last one is going to be the 8th, who is the Antichrist. Now, the first one, if I can give you a few of them. The first one, the first shadow of the Antichrist was Nimrod. He came in the Bible. Nimrod was the first person to build the new world order, the world against God. He was the first world emperor. He ruled the world. And he built a tower. He was so wise, he created a tower that was breaching dimensions and reached into heaven. The Tower of Babel. We shall study it in detail. There's something similar today on earth. So Nimrod was the first world leader. He united the whole world under one language, gave them one purpose, to invade and attack God in heaven, built a tower that God came and testified that it was going to achieve his goal. So in fact, the Antichrist is going to be Nimrod number 2. So Nimrod was the first Antichrist. In fact, one of the names of the Antichrist is Nimrod 2.0. Then we have Pharaoh. Pharaoh of Egypt, the one who oppressed the nation of Israel. We assume that if for you to become a Pharaoh, you have to be Egyptian. It was not so. Because for you to become a Pharaoh in Egypt, number one, you had to be such a genius. You had to attain it. Because a Pharaoh of Egypt must have the capacity of knowing and being fluent in 70 languages. Number 2, you must be a very high practitioner of spirituality. That you are called a god. We have Osiris, we have Horus. If Pharaoh was no joke. He was a spiritual being, a spiritual person. So For you to become a pharaoh, it wasn't ethnicity that was disqualifying you. You had to qualify. And now when we come to the Old Testament, in the book of Isaiah, in the book of Micah, we see that the Pharaoh who oppressed the nation of Israel, he wasn't even Egyptian. He wasn't. He was Assyrian. He came from the land where the Antichrist is going to come. I should give you that verse. It's Isaiah chapter number 52. Let me read for you verse number 4. It says, "For thus saith the Lord God, my people went down aforetime into Egypt, to sojourn there," which means to live there. "And the Assyrian oppressed them without cause." You see? So Israel had gone to Egypt, and the Assyrian is the one who oppressed them without cause. So this is where we get that the Pharaoh who oppressed Israel was not Egyptian. Now, because we said that there is nothing new under the sun, that which is that which has been, the same way, the person who is going to oppress Israel, the Antichrist, is also going to come to the region that was Assyria by then. And today is modern day Iraq and Syria, that region, also known as ancient Babylon. So we have seen that the Pharaoh who oppressed Israel was not Egyptian. He was Assyrian, though he ruled in Egypt. So let's see the pattern in the future, how it's going to happen. In Isaiah again, chapter number 10, verse 24, it says, "Therefore, thus saith the Lord God of hosts, O my people that dwelleth in Zion, be not afraid of the Assyrian. He shall smite thee with a rod, he shall lift up his staff against thee, after the manner of Egypt." So he says the Assyrian is going to come back. But this one who's going to come back, he's going to be the real Antichrist, who's going to come from the region of Babylon. Okay? So the person who's going to come and be the Antichrist, he again is going to come from Babylon. And as of over the past few years, it was not possible. Because the seat of world power, it has been moving, shifting. It has been shifting from empire to empire. Wherever the superpower is, that's where the centroid of power is. It was in Egypt. It moved to Babylon. It moved to Persia. It moved. Now, in our modern day, it moved from Europe during World War, after World War II, because Britain was the centroid of power in the whole world. They were the dominant force on earth, ruling 1/4 of the planet. They used to say that the sun never sets on the great British Empire. Then it moved after World War II, the British Empire collapsed, and then that center of power, it moved to the United States of America. Today, America is the seat of power. But during the period of the 70th week, the period when the Antichrist is going to be moving, America is going to be a non-player. America wants to be the superpower of the world. The superpower of the world is going to go back to Babylon. You ask me, not Russia, not China, of course not Africa. Yes, it's going to be back in Babylon. If you have noticed that the United Nations, they are planning to shift their offices away from New York in America. United Nations. And in fact, a big fraction of their offices right now, they are already in Nairobi, in Kenya, our neighbors. They are moving away from New York, which means the seat of power is no longer in America. So by the time we reach the 70th week, it will have shifted, and not just to Nairobi, it's going to go back to Babylon. How do I know? In the book of Zechariah, chapter number 5. Anyway, let me read it. Zechariah chapter number 5. Because this is a vision that God showed to Zechariah, and an angel is going to interpret it for him. Because the vision he's showing him, these are the events that are going to happen in the end times. So before the end times, spiritual things have to be prepared for the world to follow the steps that are determined. So I'm reading chapter number 5. Let me read from verse number 7. "And behold," this is in a vision, "and behold, there was lifted up a talent of lead. This is a woman that sits in the midst of the ephah. And he said, This is wickedness. And he cast it into the midst of the ephah, and he cast the weight of lead upon the mouth thereof. So he's seeing a vision where there are two female beings, angelic beings, carrying this basket. And in this basket, there's a woman inside whom they have covered with the lead. Then lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, there came out two women, and the wind was in their wings, for they had wings like the wings of a stork. All these details are important. And they lifted up the ephah between the earth and the heaven. Then said I to the angel that talked with me, whither do these bear the ephah? Where are they carrying this basket? And the angel said to me, to build it an house in the land of Shinar, and it shall be established and set there upon her own house. So the vision that he's seeing a basket, and there's a woman in that basket whom they have covered. The angel has told Zechariah, said that is wickedness. And it was being carried by two women with wings. And these wings were wings of a stork bird. Levitically speaking, stork birds are unclean birds, which means these are demon angels. They are female demon angels carrying wickedness and planting it in the land of Shinar. What do you know about the land of Shinar? It's the same land that Nimrod built the tower to go back to heaven. So do you see how the prophecy is rolling out again? So they are planting wickedness in the land of Babylon, where the Antichrist is going to rise again. So the Assyrian is going to come from Babylon, from Iraq and Syria, that region. So the Antichrist won't come from anywhere else. He's going to come from that region. Now there's something I want to tell you about one particular modern religion that we have today. But let's first finish this. In Daniel chapter number 8, how we spoke about the king of fierce countenance. And through his policy, verse 25, chapter number 8, and through his policy, he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, which means the global economy is going to be lifted in a matter of days. And he shall magnify himself in his heart. This Antichrist is going to boast. He's going to be so boastful. And by peace shall destroy many. Through peace, he's going to destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes. Who is the prince of princes? Prince is ruler of princes. This is Jesus Christ. He says the Antichrist is going to stand against Jesus, and he shall be broken without hand. So he's speaking about how the 70th week is going to end. So the Antichrist is going to, number one, to bring global prosperity. He's going to bring peace in the whole world. And through that cunningness, that negotiation, is going to be a deceiver. A very powerful orator. People, they say when you listen to Obama speaking, even if you're angry at him, he charms you into loving him. He was a very powerful orator, very convincing. And that's how he did some of the things that were questionable, and people didn't even catch up to it until he was done. Now, if Obama was that and he was just a normal human being, how about the Antichrist, the son of Lucifer, the deceiver? Jesus said he has been a liar from the beginning. Now his son is going to deceive the whole world. And through peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. Wow. So let's go back to the words of Jesus. Chapter number 24. What is going to happen in the middle of that week? Now, during that period, after the church has been taken away and we have been hidden, God doesn't want us to see the terrible things that are going to happen here on earth. Jesus is now saying, in chapter number 24, verse number 15, it says, when you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, let him, whosoever readeth, let him understand. Jesus is saying there's an event that is going to happen. This event is going to happen in the middle of the 70th week. The week that the covenant of the Antichrist has been established. Daniel has told us that after 3.5 years, he's going to break the covenant, stop the sacrifices, and cause the abomination of desolation. Now, you're going to study the abomination of desolation in the book of Daniel, chapter number 11. Though he didn't give it in detail, but I can tell it to you up plainly. The abomination of desolation. Jesus is referring to an event that happened in the year 167 BC. 167 BC. There was a king known as Antiochus Epiphanes. Is another shadow of the Antichrist. He went and he killed many people in the land of Israel, in Jerusalem. And he entered into the temple, killed the priests, took every sacrifice, the offering that had been given, took away all the gold in the temple. And then he made it a law. He made it a law not to worship on Sabbath. And that was punishable by death. Following the law among the Jews, it became a punishment. It became punishable by death. And among the things he did, which we call the abomination of desolation that Jesus is telling us about, is that he entered into the Holy of Holies and he sacrificed a pig on the altar of Yahweh. He sacrificed a pig on the altar in the temple of Israel. It was Antiochus Epiphanes, one of the most wicked kings to ever exist. So, and after doing that, he commanded the erection of a pagan god inside the Holy of Holies. They set up a statue of Zeus inside the Holy of Holies and commanded every Jew to bow down to the statue. It was that bad. So the temple got defiled in the year 167 BC. And there was great persecution of the Jews that they ran away and escaped. It took them 3 years before they could reclaim the temple and consecrate it and dedicate it back to God. But it was a great, terrible thing that happened. So we read that in the historical books, one of the books that is not in the Bible called the book of Maccabees. So the high priest had sons, the Maccabees, five sons of his. They're the ones who led a rebellion, and then they reclaimed the temple and took back the temple for themselves. And that ceremony, up until now, it is celebrated in Israel. By the time Jesus was born, that's the feast of dedication. Jesus, by the time he was born, he also participated in the feast of dedication. But the dedication, it began from the recovery of the temple back to God. So when Jesus speaks of the abomination of desolation, he is referring to an event that happened in the past that is going to happen in the future. Because in the future, the Antichrist, he himself, is going to enter into the temple in Israel in the middle of the 70th week. And he's going to set himself as God and command to be worshipped by the whole world. That is the abomination of desolation. Whether he's going to sacrifice another pig, we do not know. But if pattern is true, most likely it's going to happen. And after that, he's going to set himself, calling himself to be God, and command to be worshipped. Let's read that in the book of 2 Thessalonians chapter number 2. He is going to call himself to be God. Chapter number 2, verse number 4. Let me say from verse number 2 anyway. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away fast, and that man of sin be revealed. So he's telling the people in the Thessalonian church, because they were scared that the rapture has happened. So he says, do not worry, because that time will not come of the second coming. He says, because the man of sin, there's going to be, first of all, a falling away. People in the church are going to fall away because they have not engrafted their lives to the word of God. And that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. I told you about the 13 names of the Antichrist in the New Testament. 2 of them are here. He is known as the man of sin, also known as the son of perdition. So he says, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God. We say the Antichrist is going to exalt himself in his heart. We saw that in the book of Daniel chapter number 8. So what he's going to do, he's going to exalt himself above everything that is called God. He's going to claim superiority to the God of Israel, superiority to the God of the Muslims. And that he is going, okay, let's finish it. And that is worshipped, whatever is worshipped, he's going to exalt himself above it. So that he, as God, sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. See the kind of blasphemy he's going to do. So after 3.5 years of the 7 years that he promised, he's going to enter into the Holy of Holies, declare himself to be God, and demand to be worshipped. In Revelation we see that the false prophet is going to cause all people around the world to bow down and worship the Antichrist, because he's going to declare himself to be God.